that my main character wasn't likable and wasn't funny. Now, I've done videos on why I don't think likability is important, but I'm not talking about somebody that you want to have over for dinner. I'm not talking about that kind of likable. I'm talking about a character that my audience is rooting for. Now, when I say rooting, I mean the American version of rooting, which is to cheer somebody on. Not rooting like the Australian version of rooting, which means... On the other hand, I don't want this character to be fuzzy feeling. She's not a nice, she's an anti-hero. And we've talked about anti-heroes before. There are three kinds of anti-heroes. The realistic, pragmatic. This is the kind of anti-hero that is... Annie. This is the kind of anti-hero that will do what is good regardless of whether or not it's right. Often still follow the hero's journey, but make choices that are maybe controversial in order to achieve their goals. The ends justify the means for this character. Please stop doing that. It bumps the camera. Morally gray anti-hero. This is a Viola Davis kind of character from How to Get Away with Murder. Somebody who has motives and a rich backstory that make their actions explainable. The broken hero, the sad clown anti-hero that justifies their behavior because there is someone worse. And you can fix the ways to deal with these anti-heroes and make them likable and make your audience care about them is the same whether or not you qualify your character as an anti-hero or not. This is still how you get them through. Are they complex enough? Do they have a complex history? Go to another level. Often a contradiction or an internal conflict can help with this complexity. So you might have, for my character, for example, she wants connection. She desperately wants to connect with people and to have a community, but she's going about it all wrong. Because she thinks that if she is famous, if she has money, if people recognize her, if people see value in the content she's creating, she will have love. And she also thinks that there are sort of stages that she has to tick along the way, boxes, if you will, that she has to tick off in order to achieve her goals. But in the end, if she's true to herself and does what she wants to do, regardless of what society tells her she should want, that is what's going to make her happy. And she's going to find love if she is herself, because people will love her as she is, not as she thinks she has to be. The biggest danger when you have a character that is complex with these sort of morally gray methods of dealing with their outcome, whether it is because the ends justify the means or they are justifying because of a misbelief or a misconception, they're justifying their behavior, then at the end of the day, what you really need to make sure is that you haven't confused your villain with your anti-hero. So you see this a lot, especially that third option, that either the sad clown or the Dexter, the Cruella, the character that is actually the villain in someone else's story. The way to tell that story and have your audience care about them is that the actual villain of your story is worse. So Dexter kills serial killers. So he's kind of doing society a service in a twisted sort of way. You think about the Ocean series, whether you're looking at Daniel Ocean, Oceans 11, 12, and 13, or if you're looking at Oceans 8 with Sandra Bullock's character, which is Debbie, I think. They have a villain that is worse. Especially in Oceans 11, this was very successful because we were on Danny's side. We did not like... He was a villain. He had Danny's wife and we didn't like him. He wasn't a nice guy. And Danny was charming, so we liked him better. You could argue that in Ocean's 8 it was less successful because the villain was not the victim. And it was a bit of a misstep, I feel, that they stole the jewels from the museum and from Cartier. It was maybe a victim who could afford to lose these things, but not necessarily a villain in their own right. Whereas the villain who put Debbie in jail, it just sort of played out like a revenge story. There's no love is the greatest thing, like with Danny's story. And I think maybe that's why it wasn't quite as well received. So the supporting characters as well are key. So when your character is failing and doing the wrong thing, if you have somebody that can show the audience that they're loved, and think about who that character is going to be. Who is the character in the story that's going to show your audience and see the true value and worth of your main character? How can you know that you have these things?
It's a school of thought that you need 3 things to make a great, interesting character.
I took steps to make sure that I could get past them and get further into my story, and this is what I did.